Our next presenter wrote 1 episode of The Simpsons and 1 billion episodes of The Letterman Show. He's a nominee tonight for Maya and Marty, but he's best known as the world's foremost authority on industrial musicals, Steve Young.
When the Guild asked me to present the Herb Sargent Award for Comedy Excellence to my dear friend Steve O'Donnell, my reaction was, wow, what an honor for him and for me. Getting to do this for him makes me feel like I've won an award myself. And best of all, nothing for me to dust or polish. 27 years ago, this spring, oh, it did better than I thought. 27 years ago this spring, Steve hired me as a writer for Late Night with David Letterman. But my very first encounter with him was 3 years earlier when I was about to graduate from college, and I doubt he remembers it. I was an aspiring comedy writer, and somehow I got Steve's phone number at the Letterman offices. One afternoon I called him, cheerfully oblivious to the fact that the head writer of a nightly television program might not have time to chat with random callers. And yet, I got him on the phone. I said something like, "Hi, my name's Steve Young. I'm hoping to be a comedy writer and wanted to ask you a question." Without missing a beat, he said, "The answer is yes. It does hurt the fish when you take the hook out of its mouth." And I thought to myself, whoa, that's weird and actually kind of awesome. I don't recall even exactly what my question was or what else he said, though I'm sure it was encouraging. But I've always remembered his ability to instantly execute a mental left turn and casually toss it out to a complete stranger. Steve's comedy genius is abundant. His credits, Letterman, Seinfeld, The Simpsons, Chris Rock, Jimmy Kimmel, give you some sense of it, but it's in person, moment by moment, that you understand that he's an original, a dynamo, a comedic force of nature. He's been a huge influence on my sensibility and that of so many others. But the Herb Sargent Award also recognizes those who've mentored new writers, and Steve certainly did that for me. His kindness in taking my phone call was just the beginning. When he hired me at Late Night, he saw glimmers of potential, but that potential needed to be sharpened and polished. Again and again, he patiently explained why this idea wasn't quite right, or how that joke didn't quite land, helping me along the rocky path of getting better. And it paid off. Between 1990 and 2015, I had over a dozen jokes on the show. And when the Guild announced that Steve was getting the award, my Facebook feed filled up with tributes from friends and colleagues with similar stories. I showed him a writing packet, and he graciously critiqued what worked and what didn't. Steve was so generous with his time when I was starting out. He really made me reconsider the ethics of fishing. In these dark and unsettled times, we can at least feel great about the fact that this honor is going to the right person. Well, I pity any speaker who has to follow my blistering performance. But we have someone who's going to try. Here's a videotaped message from another friend and colleague of Steve's.
Thank you very much. It's a great pleasure to be here. I'm going to pretend people are actually applauding now. Thank you. No, that's too much. Please, ladies and gentlemen, settle down. Come on, you're making fools of yourselves now. Thank you very much. Good evening, everybody. Where is this being held?
It's at the Edison, yeah.
The Edison.
Edison Ballroom, yeah.
Oh, Jesus, the Edison. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much. It's a great pleasure to be part of this wonderful night on behalf of our colleague, my good friend, former head writer, tremendously creative man, Steve O'Donnell. I understand you're there at the Edison. Anyway, I wish I could be there, but I'm here at my new job. I'm working at Dick's. Oh, what an evening, though. Am I right? It's like the Rose Parade. Listen, tonight, the Writers Guild of America which, by the way, I've been a member of for decades and proud of the affiliation and grateful for the representation. We're giving Steve O'Donnell, a good friend of mine, the Herb Sargent Award. I've known Steve for quite a long time, and the Herb Sargent Award, I think, really typifies what we have in Steve O'Donnell as a writer and as a man. Here was a guy endlessly creative, endlessly funny, and also quite patient. He worked for me. We worked together for quite a long time, and I remember when things would get a little tense around the office, he would always do this. So for this and quite a long list of other reasons that I didn't want to take the trouble to write down, congratulations to you, Steve. The other thing I know, and I don't even know if this should be mentioned, but your first wife hated me. So enjoy the night, Steve. It's all about you. Congratulations on the Herb Sargent Award. No one that I know more deserving, no greater representative of the Writers Guild of America than my good friend, Steve O'Donnell. Congratulations, Steve.
Dave Letterman, how about that? Imagine having that many basketballs. That guy has done okay for himself. And now, ladies and gentlemen, it's my honor to introduce your Herb Sargent Award winner by a nearly 3 million popular vote margin, Steve O'Donnell.
Steve, may I embrace you in a comradely fashion? I don't really remember being encouraging to young writers. A bunch of punks, most of them seemed like to me. Maybe on a staff sometime, I was trying to con them into doing my work for me, and they thought that was encouraging, you know. But my memory's starting to go, so maybe it did happen. My eyesight's starting to go too, so that's why I wrote out what I wish to say. I'm not a performer, I'm not an actor, I'm a writer, and I'm going to be depending on writing, as I believe everyone should. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much, Steve Young. Believe it or not, I have seen this man in black leather pants, standing on a table in a writer's room, gyrating, imitating Jim Morrison more than once. I'm fortunate in your friendship and in this. I'm immensely grateful and moved, honored, dazed, and incredulous. And I want to say thanks to Dave Letterman for giving me that stately and ludicrous introduction a minute ago. And also thanks to Dave Letterman for giving me that first job 35 years ago. You know, bearded Dave looks like a philosopher now, but in fact, I always found him to be the quickest, the smartest, the most interesting, and skeptical, wise man that I knew, but with a sweetly goofy sense of the absurd. And he's pretty good on the drums and does a fine Jimmy Stewart impression. It's been 20 years since I worked on Dave's show, and I have to say I still dream about it almost every night. Tonight, I'm Midwesternly mortified, and perhaps there's been a mistake, because compared to the other people you're going to see on this stage tonight, they're Coca-Cola and I'm Royal Crown Cola, and they're Miami Beach and I'm Gainesville. They're a Stephen King novel, I'm a Dean Koontz novel. I'm not even Curly Joe Besser, I'm more of a Curly Joe Dorito. But maybe the Guild confused me with Meryl Marco, the original head writer on Late Night. She created so many wonderful, innovative visual bits like dog poetry. I'm just going to quote freely. Poetry from the dog's point of view. My empty supper dish mocks me. There's a tick on my back the size of an olive. And in the 1980s, as a joke, we entered one of her dog poems into the Bulgarian International Humor Competition. and I still want it. Can you enter something in a humor competition as a joke? But Meryl won a big communist trophy, and I still think of her as either the world's most artistic comedy writer or the world's funniest artist. Maybe the Guild mixed me up with Jim Downey, the intelligent and original, a great mentor and exemplar. Jim should be honored by the WGA many times over, and maybe he has been, but I don't read the emails from the Guild if they're not about free movie screenings. Could you be thinking of the singular Bill Sheft? He's got to be the only member of the Writers Guild who conversant in ancient Latin and Greek, as well as being fluent in Shecky, Morty, and Dino. He writes monologue, he writes novels, he's brainy and borsty. Maybe you confused me with my own twin brother, Mark O'Donnell, which would be understandable because we're identical. Such a writer and so handsome. The implausible platoon of persons I've been privileged to work alongside, just a quick sampling, and hey, maybe you're in here. Longtime Kimmel writer Rick Rosner, a former male stripper and a frequent volunteer for free plastic surgery. He claimed to have the highest IQ ever tested in North America, and yet I routinely saw him eating sandwiches out of the office trash can. Chris Elliott, the most wonderful writer and a loony performer. So many nights after work at Letterman, we'd go down to have drinks at Lindy's, and Chris would send dessert plates of flan over to complete strangers. And when the waiter would point over to Chris, he would look at the out-of-towners and give them a suave and sinister eyebrow lift. On the Chris Rock show, I delighted in Wanda Sykes. Her office was next to mine, and through the wall, I would sometimes hear her shouting things, I presume in character, like, "Who the fuck sat on my church hat?" And on first meeting young Jake Lentz, he convincingly made a case to me against panda bears. And now, I hate the wretched things as much as he does. And that is word power, my friends. He has since dropped out of comedy writing and has gone to medical school and says he wants to help people. It takes all kinds. Comedy writers, they are the best people and the worst people. Big children, most of them, griping, moaning, seeing things on the air. Oh, that was just like the idea that I pitched. Well, almost. They have infantile tastes in food. My one-time partner on the Dana Carvey show, Spike Ferriston, bragged to me once he had never tasted an olive. That's my second olive reference, and I'll clean that up in the final draft. The names of writers, like music to me: Wheezy Palanker, Nefertiti Lovelace, Monica Padrick, Ellie Barancik, Hugh Moore. There's a terrific comedy writer named Hugh Moore. Several David Cohens, a couple of Chris Kellys, horrible, wonderful, delightful, rich company. Why do I thrill to the ecstasy of your shop talk, the joy of your companionship, and all the happiness your palaver has given me? For all that and this, my sisters and brothers in the Guild, I thank you.